Stephan Sterns is just not having the best time in jail at all. It appears he's getting worse. He's almost been in jail in Florida for about a year now. I received updated information about Stephan Sterns' jail file. So I want to tell you about all the information I got directly from Osceola County, the jail down there in Florida. I want to talk about him being rehoused to medical on January 18th. 2025. So that was just 4 days ago for some sort of heat-related illness. I want to talk about Sterns talking with his mom on the phone, particularly for 1 whole hour in 4 15-minute increments in October, the lack of other people apparently Sterns is talking to. I want to talk about the weirdo who has given him money. I want to talk about his dad giving him money and the amounts he's getting. And we can talk about Sterns' books being taken away and much more. So it appears Sterns is getting worse as he awaits his time in jail for his next hearing, which is scheduled for February 12th, 2025 at 9 a.m. Now that's a pre-trial hearing on the CSAM case, not the more serious case. They're both serious. They're both horrible cases, don't get me wrong. The other case is scheduled for later in the year. We don't know if any of these hearings will be delayed. You know I'm checking the docket down there in Florida all the time. So will he be able to even appear in court for his pre-trial hearing on the CSAM case for all these horrific crimes he perpetrated, he is alleged to have perpetrated against his girlfriend's 13-year-old daughter, Madeline Soto. Now, we took a look at this footage previously, the body cam footage, and I've been foying up the wazoo. I wrote paragraphs and paragraphs of like at least 9 things I believe we're missing, more videos, more everything from this case. We'll see what we get. But anyway, Sterns is toughing it out down there, little spoiled guy that he is, for nearly a year in the jail. Now this jail he's been in since March 1st. Remember he was whining during that transport video? March 1st. It was earlier in the morning. It was prior to Madeline's body being located. And Sterns is whining to the transport officer about, his core body temperature dropped at least 1 or 2 degrees. Whatever he was saying, it's hard to hear and understand him because of the tone of his voice and how he kind of whispers. He takes on a persona where he's hoping people will have sympathy for him or feel sorry for him. He was complaining to that transport officer about only having like a little toilet paper roll or something like that to lay on, no pillow. You think they're supposed to do something like that? He had the nerve to ask the officer.
I'm gonna make it warm for you, okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Can you feel that?
A little bit.
Okay. How's the temperature feel?
Better than it was.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Don't know why they don't do that. You know, why don't they just kind of like at least give you a blanket, you know?
My core temperature was down. By the time they took it, it was like a degree or 2 lower than it should have been.
Wow.
Couldn't regulate. I was sleeping on bare metal. The first night I was on a concrete floor with a roll of toilet paper for a pillow and nothing else. Begging for a blanket or a pad to sleep on for like 2 days. I think they were supposed to do stuff like that.
Oof. That sounds rough, man.
I can't believe some people who are accused of the most heinous crimes perpetrated against another person. You know when they say man's inhumanity to man, or just the worst evil? The claims of what he did to Maddie are horrific. And for Sterns to literally fix his mouth to say, my core body temperature was dropping and I don't think he maybe had a blankie or a pillow and he was kind of sleeping on a hard concrete or bed or whatever. You know, it was kind of like boo-hoo, right? Well, it seems he's having potentially the opposite problem with his health now. Instead of being too cold, he's suffering from some sort of heat-related illness. We'll go over that when we go over all the jail notes I received. So I had put in a FOIA request recently, and I learned a lot. I asked them to please provide updated everything, the phone call logs, all this stuff, anything they could release under Florida Sunshine Laws from September 20th to the present, because I believe the last time I got updated information about Sterns and his jail happenings must have been around September 20th of last year. First, we can look at his property list. As of January 10th, 2025, it included 9 books. His inmate property inventory, I guess every so often. I don't know the rules of the jail, but there's an inmate property inventory. They're probably especially keeping an eye on him. This one is dated January 10th, 2025. So it looks like he has nothing like glasses, no watch, no rings, no bra, no necklace, no bracelets, no piercings, belts, purses. None of that stuff. All this stuff is like, no. The only thing we see in the property, it says 9 books. And it's signed off. The inmate's signature is there too. You see his chicken scratch. Yeah, you wouldn't be able to read my signature either, probably, if you saw it. And it has the officer's signature. So Sterns signed off on this himself 12 days ago. No money or anything like that you would expect. Generally, I guess an inventory list like this for an inmate, especially when they're first coming in, they tend to have maybe cash on them, jewelry, whatever, all this stuff they can't, it can be stored in their property, but they can't take it to their cell or the pods with them. And now, before we go over the notes and before we go over all the money he's getting, let's look at Sterns' call log. So it's very brief. I'm trying to remember what it was before. Remember before, if you look way back at the playlist, all the videos I've done last year about him and Maddie and Jennifer Soto, you might remember these strange phone numbers on his list and all these things. Well, the only number this time that I see Sterns calling and successfully talking to someone was related to his mother. It was a phone number attributed to Deborah Sterns, his mom, Deb, and it was on October 18th. And you see 4 15-minute phone calls. And I guess they started at 1:44 p.m. And I didn't understand why until I saw the notes. There was some kind of rolling phone that Sterns was able to use that day. At first I was like, what happened on October 18th, 2024? Anything interesting? Anything significant? I haven't found anything special yet, but I did see Sterns was talking to mommy a whole hour that day, 15-minute increments. It looks like he tried to call her back different times and it didn't connect. But, he talked to her at 1:44. He spoke with her again at 2:17 p.m., at 2:49 p.m., at 2:52 p.m., and at 3:24 p.m. Now, I don't know what they talked about, but gotta be very interesting. I noticed also one thing that did not appear in his property list. There were no medications, no meds. Now, that doesn't mean that he isn't still being given medications. It's just the way I interpret it is he doesn't have any meds with him. Like if a person was newly arrested and they had their medication in their purse or whatever. So that doesn't mean he's not still getting medication. Remember all the medication he rattled off to officers during those early interviews. He takes this for anxiety, that for anxiety, or whatever, for apnea or insomnia. There's all this talk of Sterns' medication by himself and others, I believe, in those earlier interviews. So I was wondering, is he still getting which medications? I noticed, like when I go into prison ministry to my local jail every month, sometimes, we're in the room and we do a Bible study and stuff. And some of the women, the inmates, if it's medication time, they'll be right there. The guards or the officers will call them out, or they'll be in the hallway and they have to get their water and take their medications based on whatever condition we're talking about. So that's why I wondered, could this heat-related illness Sterns is suffering, could it be related at all to change in medications, withdrawal from the medications he took when he was on the outside? We don't know what he was getting legitimately and what he wasn't getting legitimately. If you go listen to, the interviews with Sterns' friends like Chase or whomever, you will see he talked about a lot of different substances Sterns took and the way he took them. And speaking of Chase's interview, that's another one. I'm still listening to it now, allegedly speculating. She goes over that interview, but she also showed some new paperwork that I didn't get. Now, I got all these other documents, and I'll probably link them below if you want to download them and read. But she got one that shows Sterns' commissary in her recent video. I found that fascinating. I will link to her below again. And you can see how fascinating it is, how much money Christopher Sterns is shelling out to Stephan still. You know, he was paying the $600 per month or whatever it was to rent that Santa Maria condo room for Sterns, and that got a little bit too much for him. And that's why Sterns was supposed to come home, move home to Northport, Florida in December, try and make his own way. His jobs kept falling through. But now he's in jail, probably off to prison whenever this trial happens. And you can see Christopher Sterns still shelling out the funds for his grown son, his 38-year-old son. And you know, I still have a heart for Chris and Deborah Sterns, no matter what they are, what kind of people they are. You know, you hear bad things about them or whatever. I don't know, I still have a heart for them because I think of them as, okay, these parents, I don't know if they raised Sterns right or not. You know, can you blame parents for one child turned out great, one didn't? What can you say? I understand why Chris Sterns could not just turn off his love for Stephan just like that, as if it were a light switch. So he's still sending him money. You can see him shelling out $30 on Halloween on October 31st, 2024, and then also $30 on November 6th, 2024, $35 on November 13th, with Sterns turning right around and then spending $30.01 on unknown commissary, so we don't get to see what the heck he bought. I bet you he's buying books once we get to the notes section, unless his parents are just still sending him books. I don't know if Sterns can order any books on his own. I know when we go into the jails now, we can't just hand out Bibles willy-nilly like we used to be able to. I wish we could. They're very cool with us, but now it's a procedure where we have to take it up there, put it in the inmate's property. If they already have a Bible, they can't be grabbing more, because the inmates were, literally some of them, were taking the Bibles, trading them in my local jail for commissary, maybe contraband, I don't know. But I was like, well, you know what? At least they found the Word of God valuable enough. Someone probably traded it for sausage or whatever, cup of noodles, a razor, I don't know. You can't have razors. There's certain type of razors, I think they're really dull. Anyway, who knows what Sterns is buying with his commissary. But that's when a mysterious name we've all seen before on different channels. I've never mentioned this guy's name, but now that I researched him more, I was like, okay, it's public record. Now it shows up on the list as Lall Karam Shamshir, but his name is actually in a different order because they put the last name first. So it pops up again, this time on this list, for $10 he gave to Stephan Sterns on November 9th, 2024. So more on his interesting background I found in Kissimmee in a moment. I'll probably read that at the end. So again, Chris Sterns, he's going on to pay Stephan more, $50 on November 19th, 2024. And then the Lall guy pops up again, paying another $10 to Sterns a few days later on November 23rd, 2024. Now Chris, again, he's shelling out $40 on November 24th, 2024, another $40 on November 29th, 2024. So it's like, he's probably paying whatever he can afford, because according to Access Corrections, you can pay an inmate up to $300 at a time. So Chris is probably like, okay, this is what I can afford right now. Now, after all, Thanksgiving was the previous day when he gave him that last $40 I just read. Thanksgiving was Thursday, November 28th, 2024. So maybe Chris was feeling a little bit nostalgic inside for the son that he had hoped Sterns would turn out to be. You know, all the hopes and dreams you have for your children. I can only imagine how Deb and Chris feel. And then this guy grows up to bring all this negative attention. He's accused of taking the life of a beautiful little girl, and I can't imagine being these parents. But on December 1st, 2024, Chris gave Sterns another $40. On December 8th, 2024, Chris gave him a whopping $60. That's the most I've seen on this list. Then on December 15th, 2024, Chris gave him two amounts, $20 and $35. So Christmas is approaching, and Stephan received $25 from his dad on December 19th, 2024, and then $35 on December 22nd, 2024. Now, when 2025 rolled around, Chris wasn't shelling out the $60 and the $40 here and there. I mean, it does add up, and perhaps his parents could be hurting for money, because I don't know how this entire case has affected their careers. I feel like they were unwittingly and unwillingly, no matter what kind of job they might have done raising Sterns, I don't know. They were drawn into this tragedy, and being in the real estate business, whatever business Chris Sterns is in, I don't know how that impacted his business, what his son's accused of doing. I don't know how Deb's poodle business was impacted, so maybe they're hurting for money. So the amounts coming in were not as high as the 60 and the 40 bucks, but close. Chris gave Stephan 35 bucks on January 11th, 2025, and the same amount on January 5th, 2025. Sterns purchased commissary. We don't know what it was. He gave him similar amounts right after Christmas, December 29th, 2024. I think he gave him 35 bucks there. And I'm not sure if he uses access corrections, but Sterns is indeed listed there with his little recipient ID and his name, Stephan M. Sterns. Now, we're going to go through these notes, the most interesting highlights. I'll put them on the screen. Maybe we'll talk about all of them, but I especially want to focus on Friday, October 18th, when he received time on his rolling phone. It says it does work for him to use. Assigned tablet to ISO cell is broken. No other tablet is available for that cell location, whatever that means. So I had to look up a rolling phone. That's a phone where you can have calls in a secluded area or when a patient or inmate themselves cannot reach a phone for communication. And so he took advantage of that to call his mommy, apparently October 18th, for 4 15-minute segments. It tripped me out. I was like, okay, these are the only phone calls listed since we last covered his phone calls. Now, I don't know the emails. Getting the emails is not as simple a process as asking the jail for them. I think those have to go through the state's attorney. And I just got an email from the state's attorney asking them to invoice me on a lot of these records. So we'll see what they come up with. But the jail, we just see like the phone call history. So in terms of actually talking to someone, it sounds like he only talked to his mommy for a full hour, October 18th, 2024. I can't wait to hear those jail phone calls. So he's not out there every day on the phone. You know how other people are over there on phone calls from prison listening to like Wade Wilson's phone calls. I don't really listen to those. Ernest Williams, Nesto Williams, you know how people are eating up. They have so many phone calls, which I can understand. People in jail want to talk to family. They want the updates. They want to hear a voice. So there's like phone call after phone call. With Sterns, it looks like there won't be a ton of them. We've only heard one. I'm still trying to get the others. And then we'll talk about Sunday, November 10th. I'll show you on the screen where there was an excessive amount of books removed for some reason. And then on Christmas, how he refused to shower. And then that January 18th where he was rehoused to medical. So let's kind of look at this. The most recent notes are at the bottom, and I noticed there aren't notes necessarily for every day, and some of them are kind of out of order. I'm looking at Sterns' big capital murder case, and I see that he did have a hearing held October 14th, 2024. So I'm paying attention to that date. As I'm looking, remember when he showed up unexpectedly in the courtroom and he had a haircut, and they're going to mention a haircut. Oh, and I see here it was right before his appearance. Yep. So let's just look at all these. I'm trying to like put the picture together to figure out the timeline of what he's doing. So starting with September 20th, Friday, Sterns requested access to the tablet and was subsequently allocated time to use it during Alpha's shift. Now these tablets the inmates tend to have only specific preloaded things. So he shouldn't be able to just like surf the net unless they've learned how to break it or have a contraband tablet or something, or, you know, he shouldn't be able to hit the dark web or do anything crazy on that tablet. That's another reason I was thinking why Sterns maybe only had one phone call with his mom, 4 of them on one day, and it was probably to talk about what happened in the hearing. But since he's probably still emailing his parents back and forth and Lord knows who else, maybe he uses that messaging email system more than talking on the phone. We'll know when we get the messages. So basically, I think they just write the notes when something of note happened that day. And so you will see September 22nd, September 17th, September 26th, all the time he was offered an opportunity to shower and he declined. September 26, per confinement review meeting, inmate will remain PC, protective custody, house alone for safety reasons. Inmate has recreation, so I don't know what he does with his rec time. I can only imagine. I've never been inside Osceola jail. I know all I can relate it to is my local jail. And, we go in, God calms me down, and we go into this room and where we have our Bible study, and it's cool because they've redesigned it and they have like windows right across where the inmates can actually attend court, basically via Zoom. So we can't be too loud, and they're sitting there, and they're sometimes when they have their Zoom hearings. But anyway, over here, I'm imagining you guys are the inmates I'm talking to. And over here, across the hall, there's this room, and it has it's air, like it's open air room, and I was like, does it snow in that room? It literally can snow in that room because it's just open to the elements. And I was thinking, yeah, I could see why people would want to be in there. Sometimes I see women just walking around in there because fresh air is a good thing. It calms people down. It's good for the workers, the employees, the jailers, and the inmates. So I don't know what Sterns' recreation is like. Also I know they have gyms, but I don't know if Sterns would be able to go to the gym or any library or in there. Maybe his recreation is just alone time in a different location or something. So again, you will see a lot of these. Inmate was offered a shower and clean uniform, and inmate declined. That happened October 3rd. He will remain in protective custody, alone for safety reasons. He has recreation. Then you will see Sunday, October 13th. 8:43 a.m. Inmate received a haircut on Charlie shift. So a lot of people noticed that from that faraway photo when he appeared in court October 14th, his hair was cut. It was shorn and he wasn't wearing any backwards baseball cap. It's a lot of the same stuff here. Inmate will remain house alone, protective custody, October 17th, but he does have recreation. And this is where we get to Friday, October 18th. Inmate received time on the rolling phone, which does work for him to use. Assigned tablet to ISO cell is broken. No other tablet available for that cell location. So that's why he took advantage of, that rolling phone rolled over to him wherever he is to talk to his mom. October 23rd, had inmate use tablet from CE. Found that tablet works in CE. What is CE? Is that a part of the jail? Does it mean something else? Some of these acronyms, I just don't know. I've researched a lot here. Allow inmate Sterns to use tablet in CE. They now work for him. A shift watch CDR advised. October 23rd, inmate Sterns is allowed to use rolling phone located in CE. Make sure to plug it on the outside over CE officer desk for usage. But I didn't see him using it for the 23rd. But on the 23rd, he did use the kiosk to order commissary. Again, the next day, he's refusing a shower. He's remained housed alone in PC for safety reasons. So imagine this is shortly after, 10 days after his first time appearing in court in person. So I'm sure, the media attention, it goes in waves. We follow it closely, but I'm sure it was maybe more explosive. And then Sterns is probably like, oh no, more inmates know about me. I better not shower and just chill or something. Again, October 25th, he refused to shower. He was offered a tablet. He was able to get on it. And then they collected the tablet from the inmate. Here we go, Halloween, that same day that his dad gave him money. He will remain housed alone. Safety reasons. He has recreation. Okay, on November 4th, though, he was offered a shower and he actually showered. I thought it was gonna say refused. He literally showered and he was given the tablet on Charlie shift. Sunday, November 10th. An excessive amount of books removed, inventoried, and secured in property released from inmate's cell. So yeah, remember, we did see that before. Sterns was talking with his parents about books. It was I can find that file. I want to say Andromeda Strain was on there. I remember Michael Crichton And there's other ones in the list. He was wanting his parents to get him from Amazon and barely saying thank you. So perhaps he has like his little growing library of books. I don't know if his lawyer can bring him any or anything, but obviously it was growing to an excessive amount of books. Again, I do think Sterns is well read. That doesn't mean I'm complimenting him. It's just an observation. So the very next day, November 11th, he was offered recreation and refused. So he's probably sad about his books going bye-bye. So again, November 14th, remaining in PC. And then November 18th, he was offered the opportunity to use the phone, to shower, to go to rec. He refused all three, but he did ask for a tablet. He was told, okay, when one's available, you'll get it. So he started refusing stuff. November 21st, he's reassessed, remaining alone in PC for safety reasons, remaining in maximum. November 23rd, he refused his morning meal. And there's a lot of he's been assessed all these days, but he's going to remain alone in PC. Now, December 5th, he refused his dinner tray, but he had a cup of juice on Bravo shift. So he just wanted juice. Housed alone, he refused to shower December 15th. Housed alone, he received a uniform exchange on December 19th. They're probably like, yes, thank you. But December 23rd, he refused to shower and outside recreation. So I'm wondering, when he showers, is he given the opportunity to shower alone? And why won't he take it? Is he afraid it's like a setup, like a Jeffrey Dahmer type thing maybe, and he'll be in there and get shanked or something? So he refused the shower and outside recreation December 23rd. Now, Christmas Day, here we go, December 25th. He refused to shower on Charlie's shift. Review meeting, he's going to remain alone. We're coming down to the end of it. New Year's Eve, December 31st. He refused his morning meal and outside recreation. He's going to remain alone, blah, blah, blah. January 6th, he was offered recreation and refused. And again, alone. On January 16th, we're coming up more recently now, he refused his dinner tray but had a cup of juice, just a little bit of juice. Then on January 17th, he refused to shower. Now, this is the one that I was tripping off of. January 18th, just 4 days ago, Sterns was rehoused to medical. And I have just Googled the hell out of this. CISO2 is needed for heat-related illness, HRI inmate. And then that same day he showered on Charlie's shift. It says then, just the 20th, 2 days ago, his reassessment was completed. He's going to remain in maximum. And then just on Monday, he refused his breakfast tray, but he did eat his lunch tray. So that's what we have for Sterns. And I looked up this heat-related illness. I was like, what could it be? And what happened? According to the Federal Bureau of Prisons Prevention and Management of Heat-Related Illness, there's a clinical guide. Symptoms of HRI range in severity from mild and self-limiting to catastrophic organ failure and death. Well, I don't think it's too catastrophic, because if he was able to shower, because we see here, he was rehoused to medical that morning at 7:42 a.m. But he was able to shower January 18th, the same day at 12:27. So I don't think it's something where he was that debilitated, whereas whatever he was treated with, he was able to shower then. There's 4 different types basically of HRI, which are heat cramps, heat syncope, which I guess is like fainting or passing out, heat exhaustion, and heat stroke. And then the military recognizes a 5th category, heat injury. So I looked up, his custody records once again. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. What happened with him? Stephan Michael Sterns, he's 38, white male, in the Osceola County Corrections, still in custody since March 1st of last year. And I'm wondering, maybe it's just hot in the jail recently due to, these record Arctic cold temperatures. There's like snow in Texas and in Florida and down south and all that. And so maybe they're cranking up the heat in there. Could that be what's happening? So I kept researching it. It said heat-related illnesses in jails and prisons can include heat stroke, dehydration, organ damage, and kidney disease. These illnesses can be deadly, especially for people with chronic illnesses or mental health conditions. So the causes can be climate change, making heat extremes more dangerous in jails and prisons, or lack of air conditioning. Now, I'm sure they probably have a lot of air conditioning in that jail, I would presume, in Florida. Many jails and prisons in the U.S. don't have air conditioning. I don't know, when I go into my local jail, sometimes I know that room can be kind of hot, but most times it's pretty temperate, it's pretty comfortable. It says poor design. Many jails and prisons aren't designed to be comfortable or humane. And it says mental health conditions. Many psychiatric medications make it harder for the body to regulate heat. So based on if Sterns is on any type of medications for, like psychiatric medications, I know Jennifer talked about hers. I'm not really remembering Sterns's off the top of my head. Could that have affected him, impacted him? Who knows? Now let's talk about this guy, Lall, who is giving Sterns money, at least a couple of $10 here, $10 there, and I forget on the previous list he gave him money too. And I didn't cover it because I'm like, oh, who's this guy? Well, what I found, classmates.com does show a man by the name of Lall, and that's a pretty, I think, unique name because I couldn't find many other people named that. He went to Osceola High School at least sometime between 1984 and 1986. He was in high school around the time Sterns was born. So I was like, these two didn't go to high school together. He does look older than Sterns. I believe Googling this particular man, he's around my age. If memory serves, he's around 55. So I don't know if he could have been a family friend of Sterns or if he just knows him from the news. Classmates.com only has a couple of entries for a man named Stephan Sterns. In between the years of 2000 and 2004, Cherokee High School in Canton, Georgia, and Sequoia High School in Canton, Georgia. Didn't have any photos of Stephan, unfortunately. Probably the same Stephan Sterns because that checks out. He would have been from 14 to 18, around high school age years. It's probably him, and we know he lived briefly in Georgia. Remember that video I did on his parents almost divorcing? We went over their paperwork. In that video, I covered all the different moves from Sterns being born in Illinois to living in all the she poo-poo locations in California, living in Georgia on that farm he talks about, in the transport, living in Central Florida, different locations. But I was like, Stephan was homeschooled for the most part, so he probably didn't meet a lot of people in high school anyway. But this guy's age doesn't check out. His name is listed on the documents here, these public record documents, as Lall Shamshir. But if you look at the Osceola News Gazette, they published way back in 1993, June 26th, there's this University of Florida news article that's been archived and saved over there. It says, police believe Shamshir Lall of this Dillingham Avenue scratched on the window of an apartment in the Chardonnay complex on May 30th and pleasured himself. So now he was facing these charges. It says, police on Wednesday arrested a 23-year-old Kissimmee man suspected of pleasuring himself in front of several people, including two 12-year-old girls. So you're like, okay, that's what he has in common with Sterns here. So in 1993, do some quick math, 32 years ago. So 32 years ago, yep, that adds up. 32 years ago, this man was 23, so he would be around 55 right now. It says, police believe and again, this is all public information. Police believe Shamshir did this, scratched on the window in the Chardonnay complex, did the sickening things in front of two young girls who were inside alone, and he fled before police arrived. Detective Daniel Lockwood. Reminds me of Flintlock Wood. I can't help but think of, Sonny with a chance of meatballs. Detective Daniel Lockwood said Lall is also suspected of knocking on the window of an apartment in the Dorado complex on April 27th. When the residents looked outside, he allegedly did the same thing in front of her. He then ran 60 feet away to another apartment and did the same thing, said Lockwood. My goodness. Ugh. Lockwood said the suspect cut his way into the patio in one of the Dorado apartment victims on May 12th. He's cutting through someone's apartment patio. Police identified Lall as a suspect, and 2 victims identified him through a photo lineup. He is charged with attempted burglary to a dwelling with an assault therein, lewd act in the presence of a child, and 2 counts each of burglary to a dwelling and committing an unnatural and lascivious act. Ooh. Lockwood said, police believe there may be many more victims. Anyone with information is encouraged to contact police. I don't know how much time he served. I couldn't find him or his record. Maybe people know more about this whole incident. Since it was 1993, it was a long time ago, but I find it fascinating. This same name is popping up on Sterns's "Let me give you money" list. And I'm wondering, what's the connection? I'm sure, I don't want to say too much. I'm not going to slander anyone. I'm not going to libel anyone. I'm only presenting whatever facts I found. I'm not even publishing the photos I found, but I'm just reading off the names. It makes me wonder, what was the connection here? I know Chris Sterns is likely just giving Stephan money out of love, and like I say, I'm sure you can't turn off the love from a child you've raised since a baby, your son. It would be hard to turn off the love, and I understand why his mom would speak to him for an hour on the phone. And even if you're truly disappointed in something a person has done, that doesn't mean you necessarily cut them off cold turkey. Some people do. You love them from afar, you pray for them, whatever. You pray for their victims more. But I did wonder about the connection. I think that's everything I wanted to say. And now I'm downloading this body cam video, finally, downloading it straight from Kissimmee that the YouTuber allegedly speculating already has. So thank her for that. I have my own raw copy, so you'll probably see me edit it into this video. Yeah, I think we can end there, but it really has me thinking, and this is why I was like, let me read this verse. Jude 1:12 through 13. These men are hidden reefs, elements of great danger to others. In your love feasts, when they feast together with you without fear, looking after only themselves, they are like clouds without water, swept along by the winds, autumn trees without fruit. These are just like the fake people. They're talking about the fake Christians. The people, they're so dangerous. They can slide in by the side door, Jude wrote. I was like, wait a minute. How did I not know Jude was Jesus's half-brother? Because he enters this book this morning. He's like, I'm a bondservant of Jesus. He didn't even like name drop, like Jesus is my half-brother. He did say he's brother to James. And I was like, that's so cool. Anyway, it's so poetic. Swept along by the winds, autumn trees without fruits, doubly dead, uprooted and lifeless, wild waves of the sea, flinging up their own shame like foam. I couldn't help but get a visual of the poetic nature of this beautiful word talking about shameful people. I couldn't help but think of Sterns and the guy who committed this crime, knocking on the girls' windows, flinging up their own shame like foam. You can't tell me the Bible is not poetic. Wandering stars, for whom the gloom of deep darkness has been reserved forever. Is that Sterns? Could be. Some people are just doomed to destruction, like Judas Iscariot. I was like, oh, he was just doomed to destruction. What a sad life. With Sterns, I'm still, even though Sterns wrote that he was like this Christian on his intake papers, he didn't act like that when he was out in the world, just fake. But I'm still praying the Lord can hit him, with this, now that he's gone through this whatever illness is, the Lord can hit his heart and still just confess. So we don't have to wait for both of these trials. So crap won't have to be revealed and potentially leaked, for them to have a CSAM trial and then the murder trial too. But, evidence will have to be presented that you don't want out there at all. You don't want any creepers like going to the trial just to try and get a glimpse of that evidence. And my whole point is I want Sterns to just confess, pull a Chris Watts, but tell the whole truth. Confess, say you're guilty. Don't drag Maddie's little friends into the courtroom or whomever will have to end up testifying. I just hate to think of children, they've been through enough trauma, her friends especially. I hate to think of them being dragged into the courtroom in Florida to just tell what they know or what Maddie might have texted, what Maddie was texting her friend. You know, we went over, we were trying to read, we saw that desperate texting to her friend, all that stuff. Of course, they can just pull the records. They don't have to have her friend there in person, but chances are they might have some young people testifying, and even the roommates or other people. You just don't want them to be even more traumatized than they already are. So that's why I want Sterns to just confess, tell the truth. Like they used to say, tell the truth and shame the devil. Well, tell the truth. The truth will set you free, at least internally. Falling on the rock, believing in Jesus, tell the truth. Admit what you did. Admit you have a problem. Live your life out in prison, not harming anyone else, and just look forward to being off this earth. Believing in Jesus, you still get to go to heaven no matter what you did here, except for, I guess, the unpardonable sin of blaspheming the Holy Spirit. I don't like to get too deep into teaching. That's why I like to just read the word and like, Lord, you help us interpret it all. Because I know I'm sitting there on my phone every morning like, I wonder what this means. And I'm searching with Google. My whole point is, I hope Sterns confesses and saves everyone trials, saves everyone the victimization, the horror, the everything, and just confess, tell the truth. There's been enough lies. Just go from there. Hopefully that all makes sense. Stay tuned. I put in a bunch of FOIAs like I told you, and we will see what happens from here in this case and many other cases. Take care.